Can you guys see
right.
me okay?
And
Just give me.
YouTube ops are fantastic. I see Twitter going. And I see the front center over there.
Very cool.
Yeah, awesome to be here.
All right. Hey everybody, welcome to another DIMO Community AMA. I'm Shannon, I'm the Community Manager here at DIMO. Joining me today, we have Alex Rods, Chatham, who are fantastic founders of Infrastructure Inc. And today we want to talk to you guys about our roadmap. And it's going to be you've all been what we've been working on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Andy, and off. It's all yours.
Sweet. So I'm going to try to do some screen share, and bear with me a little bit. We also have a bunch of questions in the backlog, and I dropped a quick update in Discord. So some of y'all might have seen this already, but basically over the last couple of weeks, we've been working really hard on a couple different fronts. Just today, we pushed live a huge update to our website. So you can go on and see a bunch more information about the project. It's a lot more user-friendly, representative of what we're working on, and also makes room for a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to be launching over the next couple of months, like DIMO apps and integrations. I'll talk a little bit about some of those today, and you can see a lot more information about the project there. And if you want to get really in the details, we've also pushed a pretty huge update to the docs for the project. And so you can see here today, we're going to be still kind of updating things around the edges. Some of these diagrams are a little bit wonky looking, but we've really tried to surface as much information as possible about the project. And one of the key areas that we've spent a lot of time focused on is breaking out the roadmap to give people more visibility into how the project is going to evolve into the future. And that is, really something that is going to be kind of constantly part of what we're doing. We've, taken a hint from, some popular video games and other projects out there and kind of broken things out into seasons. So you can see what we've done in the past, like, what happened in what we're calling now the spring season of DIMO. We launched the app, a couple new ways to add vehicles to the platform, made a bunch of geographical expansions, launched in the US, EU, and then obviously started collecting a ton of data, and I'll share some of that later on when we get into some of the questions that we've received. And then, obviously, we're in this season right now where we're very focused on what we're calling Mainnet Launch, and that's going to really have a couple of phases to it. And it's scheduled to complete, and it says October on this page. It's likely that some of these topics that are discussed on this page in particular will actually take us through November. And you can see the status on each of these projects, and also get some more information about what might be coming up. And really, the main focus is getting all of these contracts deployed and software and interfaces built on top of them. So, really obvious version of that today is the vehicle ID. There's a whole section in here on what that is. It's going to be increasingly important in the world where people are setting up wallets and converting testnet points into the DIMO token down the line. But today it's really, in beta, and we've been super happy to see a bunch of people out there minting IDs every day, even though it's, kind of a sort of game at this point. It's something that's going to be really important for the project down the line. So take a look through here and poke around. There's, obviously some content in here that's been here for a while, and then there's other stuff that's going to continue to get updated. This is also version controlled in our GitHub, so you can see as it changes over time. And it also will start to give you visibility out into, things that are going to happen even, 6, 8, 12 months down the line. And we're trying to be as open and transparent as possible about what we're working on, and we'll continuously update this as we, decide things, not just within, the core team, but also with partners that we're working with. And, at this point, there's, probably about 50 people on any given day that are like waking up and thinking about DIMO full time. And that's really cool. So this is going to be a great tool for us to kind of all stay in sync. And there's some awesome stuff that's starting to come out into the real world. One of these things is the Explorer, which is a way for us to start to share some of the aggregated data from the network with folks who are interested in learning about the project. So you can see some of the data on the website here, and this is going to obviously update over time. But we're going to give people much more of a deeper look at what's happening and start to show some geospatial data that's aggregated and shows you the growth of the network, not just over the months and years, but also within like specific days or after we release a new feature, for example. And this is also going to be a way that people who want to build applications and new services with the data are going to be able to get access to it and see like here are all of the folks that are signed up and sharing their data and interested in using applications or monetizing it in one way or another. So this is something that we've always had as an internal tool and can use for purposes of calibrating the network, and we've obviously used it to make sure that we have real data coming from real cars, and obviously to troubleshoot outages or any issues that have happened during the testnet period. And we're really excited to be opening that up to the rest of the community and seeing what people end up building with that. So I'm going to jump off screen share for now, and we'll start to run through some of the questions. Shalin, you want to keep us up to speed on anything that's rolling in live? You there? All right. Cool.
I think, Andy, just jumping into some of the questions we got a little bit ahead of time, there are some that definitely pertain to the roadmap. So I'll one of those questions, just having seen working from a little list here, our vehicle shows no data. And one of the things that's been starting to happen over the last month really is we've been shipping more and more AutoPies. And in fact, we're right on schedule now with the schedule we released in May. One of the things that I did want to, make sure we talk about is the data that comes off every car is encoded differently. We actually wrote a blog post about it. Many of you probably saw this go out in newsletter. And one of the efforts that we're working on is to actually bring in the appropriate DBC codes that are required to make insight from the data that comes off every single car. We've actually already gotten the community to contribute some of these DBC codes. So if you're somebody who's familiar with CAN bus hacking and actually decoding vehicles, we definitely want to hear from you. And we're putting together an effort and launching a bounty and a grants program that's going to enable us to get more data from cars. So if you're one of those people who gets your DIMO device and doesn't see a whole lot of data from your car out of the gates, it just means that we're working on improving that vehicle. And one of the things that we're going to include in the Explorer over time is a guide to people to understand how much data is available from your particular vehicle. And we think that this is going to become one of those kind of critical decision points for people down the line as they think about the value of their vehicle and think about actually what car you might want to buy. Is how available is the data? How easy is it to read? And this is one of those paradigm shifts that we're looking to help the world understand. And so if you're somebody who hasn't seen a lot of data yet in the app, it's something that we're working on fixing.
Yeah, and it's actually most helpful to hear from people who plug the device into their car and configure it properly if they're getting data that looks weird or is incorrect. And so we're going to work really hard to be super responsive. Generally, we've been able to respond to tickets in like less than 24 hours for the most part, especially when it relates to some kind of quality of life issue for folks that have purchased hardware. And so it's really helpful to hear from you if something looks off. And it's also pretty easy for us now to start updating the devices over the air and pushing out new functionality. And we've been able to do that we had a pretty big breakthrough last week as it relates to getting odometer and information from a really large number of vehicles. And so that's something that is going to allow us to, have a really high degree of confidence in the data that's coming in, and also to validate people's vehicles really quickly and get them earning points once they plug in. So yeah, that was a big group of questions that we received from a number of people that have already gotten hardware. And the other kind of like large bucket of questions was around when is the store going to get reopened and when can I get my hands on some of that hardware? And so I'll let Alex take that one because I know he's been working with the team and
Yeah,
putting together some exciting stuff there.
we are getting ready to reopen the store. One of the guiding principles all along for us has been we want to make sure that we deliver a substantial amount of the already ordered devices before we reopen the store. And part of that is just honoring the commitments to the very earliest early adopters. Part of that is just signaling confidence to the community. And we are finding some delays getting regular inventory now. So we are on schedule, and we'll post this again as we've been reposting and reposting. But we released a schedule back in May that we felt was realistic. We are on schedule to meet September and August and September. So our plan right now is to reopen the store probably mid-September, once we've shipped about 1,000 of the devices that are pre-ordered, and sort of using that as a benchmark for confidence in the supply chain and confidence in the community. We will, when we reopen the store, be following the order of preference that we have laid out for months and months, which is if you've come to DIMO, added your car into the mobile app or the web app, you're in priority line. We will eventually open the store completely for anyone else, provided there's still inventory, and we're excited about that too. But that will come after we've given people the opportunity to order who joined us a long time ago. And once we do that for the store, sort of in this next couple of months, we do have plans to even take the store to a bigger sort of level early next year. And that's part of what you'll read about in the roadmap if you go and poke around. Is we are definitely gearing up for secondary versions of hardware. We're working to bring on other hardware manufacturers, open source the spec. There's going to be a huge kind of push to bring in a diversity of hardware options over the next several seasons.
Yeah, over the last month specifically,
We've real quick.
Nice. What's up?
Oh man. Shalin seems to be having some connectivity issues here.
All right, we'll take it into some of the other questions we got before, and maybe Shalin can DM Alex, and we'll get the question that way.
Yep.
So another question, just kind of practical stuff about the hardware. If I want to sell my vehicle, do I sell the device or transfer it over to the new one? We're working on enabling the transfer functionality to be able to sell the device with a new car. We're also working on a way to help DIMO users sell their cars and get a really good price for it when they do. And so our hope is in the future that the hardware is abundantly available and it's something we're able to drive the cost down on and make it so that you basically want to sell it with the car and just buy a new one or install it in a new vehicle. But that's definitely a functionality that is going to be available in the near future, not right at the beginning. And there's a couple of other questions here around the token that I'm going to kind of like group into one answer. Folks have come in asking about how to get points off of the order lookup site in my app. So if you've ordered a hardware device, we made the decision a while back to basically say you're still going to be able to earn testnet points for that hardware device as long as you plug it in and keep it connected when you receive it. And so the points will transfer over at some point in the fall. It's something that we have on the roadmap, and we're going to enable that functionality once we've passed a certain threshold of shipping the devices out. But it's important to note that you won't be able to get those points until you actually plug the device in and connect the vehicle. That's an important part of why you ordered it in the first place. So that's always been a necessary requirement, is connecting a vehicle. So we're going to have some more detail about that in the next couple of weeks as it relates to kind of the next phase of the network when we move out of testnet and into the mainnet. So another question that we get is, why are you always so secretive about the token? And I think there's a variety of reasons for that. Rob is usually the person who's on these calls that is saying all of the right things, and I'll try to be that person today. But there's a couple of big reasons for that, and one is because it's really still under development, and it's not up to the core team of the project, really what happens to it ultimately. There's a number of different stakeholders in the ecosystem, and we've really released some information recently about how app developers and hardware manufacturers are also going to be incorporated into at the DIMO world as stakeholders and sort of like important decision makers for a lot of things. And so as we're starting to put together more of the detail about how the token's going to work, we've released a bunch of information in the update to docs about marketplace rewards, for example, and what kind of staking might be required to use the hardware licenses and produce devices that can actually connect to DIMO. We really don't want to be super specific because things are subject to change, and also there's a number of rules and regulations out there that we need to be compliant with, and the easiest way to be compliant is to make sure that you're limiting the specific details that you're giving out, especially if it's something that could change or something that relates to a token issuance that may or may not happen in a certain way in the future. But one thing that's for sure is that we're getting very close to the point where we feel like we can increase the decentralization on the project, launch the foundation that's going to govern the token, and have a number of different companies building in the space that feel really confident that the project is properly managed and governed. And it's taken, it feels like 3 years, but really it's only been about 12 months since we officially kicked off the process of looking into the right way to open source DIMO. And that's something that's also going to happen in the next month or so, really in a pretty big way, is a lot of the core IP and technology that's been developed by the engineering team, which is now over 20 people working on the project full time every day, is going to come out into the open. And we have a number of audits in process right now on contracts for everything from issuance to vehicle identity to managing certain lockup schedules, and all of that stuff is really best left to not like one central group of people, but a really sort of specialized group of folks. And then the information will be able to come out into the open well in advance of any kind of decision that will impact users in a significant way. And so we've tried to be as transparent as possible without making promises that might change in the future. And ultimately, we think that we have a path and like a very clear line of sight to doing this in a way that's very compliant and aligned with the users of the project, and going to set us up for success, like not just in the short term, but decades down the line. So yeah, Alex.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and there have been a couple other questions coming into me just via DM from Shalyn here. So a bunch more store related questions. One was around when we reopen, is it going to be for EU, US? What's it going to be? We are planning to open it up to all the markets that we've already served so far. So that would be US, Canada, EU, and a few other European countries. Again, it'll go based on when you added your card to the app. We get a lot of questions. A lot of people show up to Discord or email us at support. When are we going to support, other countries outside those markets? We are definitely looking at expanding. It takes a significant amount of work to add additional countries. And one of our goals for next year is to get us to a point where it can become more self-serve. And if there's a passionate community of DIMO folks in a particular country, you'll be able to sort of bring your country online to DIMO. I was also asked about the what happens if the number of people exceeds the next batch. We at this point are taking an approach where we're going to sell out, or we think, we might not, but we think we'll sell out the amount of inventory that we've already pre-purchased at this point. It's hard to say. It's anybody's guess whether that will actually happen. If it doesn't, there'll be extra inventory for everyone. And if not, then we are planning to reopen the store in some waves on priority and, allow basically, priority access. So it's not like going to be less about 1,000 just became available and more about, 1,000 more people just got priority access. If we do sell out, we are going to make a determination of, do we want to allow pre-ordering again, even before we've committed inventory? It's a balance. And some people are very happy to put up money for a product that might be delivered months in the future. Other people don't want to put up money until they're sure about a delivery timeline. So
yeah,
we're probably going to let the market
priority will always be determined by the date at which people added their vehicles to the app, and that's something that we've been very consistent about in the past. And one of the things that we want to avoid, especially as we move to a multi-OEM world where there's different manufacturers that are making devices with different capabilities and different sets of accessories, is that whenever there's a pre-sale, we don't do what we did the first time, which is say that it was going to be delivered on one day and then end up having supply chain delays and have to push back, in some cases up to 6 months, which we really were pretty torn up about when that happened, and have spent a long time trying to catch up, and are at a point now where we're like, great, we can be able to execute on this and feel really comfortable with it. So in the future, we're going to try to be as conservative as possible, but also we want device manufacturers to be able to run efficient supply chains. And if people are willing to pay for devices up front with 6-month lead times, that's only going to make growth happen faster, because it's a more efficient way for them to finance without having to go and get gouged by the supply chain financiers of the world. So
and I want to be clear on a couple of other questions, because there I think were some follow-ups to some of the things we said before that indicate some lack of clarity. So if you've received your device and you've plugged it in, you will not yet see the points update from the order lookup, like how many points you've gotten from having a pre-order device. That functionality is being built right now. It's being worked on. There's going to be updates to the back end that allow us to serve that, and then to the front end that allow you to actually open up the app and see, these are the points I got for being connected. These are the points I got from the pre-ordering. Being worked on right now. Will go live in probably the next couple of months. But it's a high priority for us. So if you've gotten it and you're not seeing that, it will be there soon. Some people asking about what points will convert into. Points are really just a way of tracking people's engagement with us during this testnet phase, and how closely they've been as a part of the ecosystem. Again, there's only so much we can say about how that's going to work specifically, but these points, getting more of them is certainly good, and it helps us understand everyone's commitment here, and we're really happy about that. A couple other store things. We are working, for international folks to minimize import taxes, things like that. Working, of course, AutoPie is based in Denmark, so that allows potentially work around some EU items. And there is a question here that I think is really important. Haven't linked my wallet yet. Do I need to get that connected? One of the big changes that everyone will see in September, probably by the end of the month, is we're going to make the app a little bit more clear about what specific tasks and things you need to achieve in order to be qualified for rewards. At some point you will need a wallet connected. Once we do start issuing tokens for staying connected, you're going to want your wallet connected. You're going to need your wallet connected. In fact, by the end of this month, we'll have a very clear in-app view and checklist that basically anyone who's coming up can show up and see what they need to accomplish for that.
Yeah. One other thing that we've been, just to switch gears a little bit, we can come back to the store if there's more questions on that later on. We've been getting some questions. We've launched a couple of experiments on apps and integrations in the last couple of weeks, and a couple of them. So here, I'll just put up some slides again. That's probably more helpful. So we've started to put up some building blocks for. Y'all can see that now too, right, Alex?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've started to put out some building blocks for DIMO apps. One of them that showed up a couple weeks ago was Glovebox, which allows you to basically convert your paper documents, title, registration, insurance into a digital wallet. It's in your DIMO app. Pretty simple stuff. Some people find that useful on its own, but a lot of app developers that want to build solutions on top of DIMO are really excited about it. And one reason is that maintenance is kind of like a key driver behind the value of a vehicle, and allows you to sell your car for more money if you keep on top of it, or maybe gives a buyer a hint that a car has not been treated properly in the past. And so that's one thing that we're going to be working on, pushing more information into and functionality into both the hardware device and some of the software connections to be able to surface information about, hey, you have a flat tire, your check engine light just came on, here's the error code. All that stuff is going to be coming live in the fall and winter seasons. And of course, we have the vehicle identity, which we're going to continue to add a lot of these building blocks on top of. So as you upload maintenance documents, those can be attached to your vehicle ID, and that can really track the full life cycle of the vehicle. And so we've launched a couple of simple pilots that are with, so the easiest and sort of lowest lift pilots were with companies in the vehicle refinancing space that reached out to us and said, hey, we think a number of your users might be overpaying on the loan that they have with their vehicle. If they're willing to submit some information on our site, we could probably save them between $100 and $200 a month, or sometimes even more. And so we've picked a small group of users that signed up through the DIMO app that we thought might be eligible for this, and basically gave them the option to do it. We haven't shared any user data. All of that is conducted through the third-party partners. But one of the cool things about this is that whenever we generate commissions from a partnership like this, we're going to share those directly back with the user. And now that's in the form of testnet points, but in the future, you could imagine that might involve something like the token and allow us to really, as an entire group, capture the value of some of these relationships. And these are really kind of like the simplest and in my case, sort of boring integrations that we can do. But there's some really exciting stuff around like actually giving users information about the value of their vehicle and then potentially helping them transact with that down the line. So these are just some renderings. The actual implementation of this in the app is going to look quite different, but you'll start to see valuation data in the app for your vehicle sometime in the next couple of months, and we're starting to test that out with a small group of users that are interested in being kind of at the bleeding edge, or maybe we're thinking about doing a vehicle transaction. And so you can see in the newsletter we sent out today, we're looking for people who are interested in experimenting with what we're calling vehicle commerce. So if you're looking to sell your car or trade into a new one, you can email colin@dimo.zone, and depending on where you're at, you can maybe get into this program a little bit early. And this is really going to end up being, I think, one of the coolest and like potentially biggest apps built on top of DIMO, although I'm sure I'm going to end up being wrong about that. And so, yeah, that's just kind of a taste of like what we're expecting to happen in the fall when, obviously we're going to have the mainnet launch, but also a big part of that is like having a useful network, not just something that a bunch of people are sending data to. We are really hyper focused on making the information that you're contributing into the DIMO network not just something that other people want to buy and use on their own, but something that's valuable to you as a user and allows you to transact and save money on stuff that you're already doing. So a lot of questions have come in as we've started to let people into some of these early access programs. And ultimately, that's going to be something that, is up to individual app developers instead of, just kind of like projects that we've been incubating internally and testing out. And yeah, you can read more in the docs about what we're calling marketplace rewards and how we think that's going to fit into the whole token ecosystem. And there's a ton of rabbit holes you can go down as it relates to that. And we're really interested to hear what people think about our approach as far as building a user-owned platform and how to capture some of the fees and value that are created by this huge aggregated pool of cars that we have connected now.
So I know we've tackled a ton of questions so far. We're seeing some others that have come in that are somewhat support related. If you're asking about your specific order or something like that, support@dimo.zone. That's the way to go. If you're asking about how do I can't find my car in the mobile app or something like that, support@dimo.zone. They can take care of you and help you get the car added. We have well over 10,000 cars in our database, but that doesn't mean every now and then we don't find out about some car that we didn't get added. But I did get somebody, there's a couple partnership questions here as well. And I think spurred on by some of what we're experimenting with here. Some folks asking about insurance companies. We have spoken with a number of insurance companies. And of course, for a long time, insurance folks have been really the one of the largest consumers of telematics data in terms of providing users a discount. Now, if you poke under the hood, you learn that the amount of data actually used by insurance companies is pretty minimal. There are plenty of upstarts that are trying to change that and enhance the ability of just like these models to actually make use of richer data. So we're certainly interested in talking to more insurance companies. Those are some other experiments that are in the back burner. But by all means, somebody asked about a Google Waze partnership. That could be interesting. There's a lot of ideas we have around, location data and, services, apps and services that are useful to people. But, by and large, this category of automotive spending is huge. And if you can get data that unlocks insight about vehicles, whether they, their health or their maintenance requirements or the driving history for insurance, it can unlock a lot of value for users.
And for the most part, we're trying to go by what people are asking us for and not what big companies show up and ask us for. And obviously there's a trade-off, right? Like with, Explorer type of aggregated data, we've had a ton of companies show up and say, hey, we're trying to improve our battery intelligence. Like we want to know more about electric vehicle batteries. At least 5 companies have approached us and said, this is something we're very interested in. So then we take that and we say, okay, this can help users because people will pay more money for user data and that will be a good thing. And, so that's an obvious category that we're building towards. We have some really interesting, partnerships that are starting to come together there that are going to allow people with, certain makes and models of vehicles to probably see a lot of the value from some of those partnerships, especially once we get into the mainnet phase of things. And then, as far as like actual, product development on top of DIMO goes, we're trying to be extremely user focused. And so we talk to people about car ownership in general. We listen to users who say, this is what I really love about, my insurance company. Nobody really says that to us, but this is what I love about my, vehicle in particular. This is what I love about this experience I just had with this automotive dealership or working with this used car marketplace. And we think there's a lot of stuff that we can do, especially when it comes to like helping people properly value their vehicle and get the most out of these really big transactions that they're making, to the point where, connecting your car to DIMO will become something that's kind of like a no-brainer to do, because if you don't, you're going to end up, getting worked over when you go to trade it in at a car dealer, or you're going to get, much worse, rate when you make a peer-to-peer sale on the vehicle. And then there's a whole other category that we're starting to get into, basically around just providing like general visibility into connected vehicle platforms. I can share some more cool data on that here. This is what we're starting to see coming back from the different software connections, and we obviously get this from the AutoPies as well. We have a very similar chart, but basically it shows like here's all the cars connected via Tesla. You can see their API basically always responds within half a second. And then when we're going through Smart Car, which obviously is a much more like layered system and involves going from Smart Car to OEMs, it's a much different story, right? People are, sometimes the OEMs take half a minute to respond. We're able to really, kind of like dial in some of those issues, figure out if it's, maybe on our side, if it's something happening with Smart Car, if it's something happening, on the other side with an OEM. And we're going to be able to provide a ton of visibility into this as we have, 400 different makes and models connected to the platform now, just software only. And the number of AutoPies is going to, increase that number quite a bit, because that opens up, pretty much every car on the road. And so we're looking at different ways to basically put this information back into users' hands and help them make better purchasing decisions about new cars that they might buy or a used car they might pick up next. And we think people increasingly care a lot about the different connected vehicle features and the technology on board the vehicle. And we can provide a lot of like ground truth insight about what that actually is, and get you to a point where you don't have to trust, some random like YouTube reviewer or the automaker themselves, or the YouTube reviewer who's getting paid by the automaker to say nice things about this car, but they really only drove it for 100 miles. We have tens of millions of miles of driving data now, and that's going up by about 12 or 13% per week right now. And so we're really going to be able to give like kind of the best insight into what car is the right car to buy for somebody who has a specific set of interests or constraints. And so that's something that we're thinking quite a bit about, and are looking to, partner with folks that are already building in the space. There's a lot of interesting, like data analysis that can happen over the data sets that we're starting to build out now. And, ultimately that's going to be a really cool thing that we're able to surface once we get Explorer out there and, start to help more people get their hands on the aggregated data.
So with that, questions have pretty much slowed down. Glad we could answer them all, and everyone's
We
so
answered
happy.
them all.
But time to wrap up. It's been an exciting couple of months here, and in the last month in particular, now that we're shipping devices out again and seeing activity in the Get Verified channel, all those things. Please, everyone, go check out the new docs at DIMO.zone. Check out the new website. We've been building and working on those things. We really are aiming to be as transparent and forthcoming as possible. The next couple of months are going to have some major milestones. We're trending towards Mainnet Launch. We're going to reopen the store. We're going to be shipping more and more devices. You guys are going to be seeing more and more data available on the app. And again, the goal here is all of this builds towards making data useful to everyone here and making a product that's useful to everyone. So you'll see experiments. You'll have the opportunity to put your data to work. And by the turn of the year, we'll be seeing an expanded hardware ecosystem, a wildly growing network, and many ways for the community to get involved. That's the DIMO update for August. So big things. And
I see Colin in the chat shilling his vehicle sales services. So hit him up if you want to be one of the first people to sell your car on DIMO. And yeah, maybe we'll get Colin up next time. He's bought and sold hundreds of cars. This guy, he's the real wizard when it comes to peer-to-peer car transactions. And yeah, we've got some really exciting stuff coming up. And yeah, we'll hang around in the Discord for a few minutes after if anybody wants to pop in and say hi. And like Alex said, please poke around and check out the new site. We're going to be pushing the first version of Explorer live in a couple weeks, and I was happy to be able to kind of drop that in and share some of it with y'all. And then one last thing to say is go through and if you have your car connected already, make sure you go and mint your vehicle ID. You're definitely going to want to be one of the first people to have done that. I think we crossed 300 the other day, which is pretty cool, given that there's not really a whole bunch of reasons to do it today, but there certainly is going to be in the future. And yeah, like Alex said, we're going to have some huge updates coming in the next month that will provide some more clarity and steps on how we're going to get this thing into the mainnet phase.
Thanks, everyone. That's from DIMO.
Bye.